The Jubilee Party is set to unveil that manifesto that Gladys is speaking about later today at the Kasarani Sports complex. The manifesto is said to be leaning heavily on job creation, education, health, food security, among other key pillars, all of which resemble the 7 pledges of the Jubilee coalition made to Kenyans in 2013. Remember, it's only Ngilu who's missing from that list when they launched it. And we're now joined by Ochieng, who is at Kasarani waiting, and he has a long wait. Andrew, good afternoon. And we now know, you reported earlier that the launch is expected to begin at around 7 p.m. We have the highlights. What else could you tell us about this manifesto and the kind of arrangements that are going on at Kasarani?
Well, thank you, Ken. If you can see behind me, it's just the final preparations that are going on here. The decor is being set. If you can see behind me, the screens have already been set. The podium is ready. The walkway right here for the president when he comes in. So everything has been set here. Well, all that is waiting probably now is for the event to begin. We understand that what is going to happen is that there will be all the cabinet secretaries will of course be there, and it will not just be a launch of a manifesto of what the government or what the Jubilee Party intends to do if it gets to power in the next 5 years. What will happen is that there will also be a track record given by the respective cabinet secretaries who will be allowed to talk and who will be giving speeches on what they've done and going forward what they intend to do. And there will also be panelists asking them questions, finding out what they intend to do going forward. And then finally is when the president will speak after all of them, all the cabinet secretaries and the deputy president has spoken. And the president is expected, as I mentioned earlier, to arrive here at 7 o'clock in the evening, but some of those things will probably happen before or after the president has arrived at this venue. So that is one of the most important things we've learned so far, is that it will not just be a launch of a manifesto, but it will also be giving the track record of what it has managed to achieve so far. Remember, in all the campaigns that we've covered of Jubilee, they've been talking about the track record, and they've been so persistent, and they've actually been dismissing the opposition, saying that leaders of the opposition have been in power for so long. I remember the deputy president saying that combined, the leaders of the opposition have been in power for 100 years, and they claim that they have been in power for only 5 years, and they've managed to do so much, including building the standard gauge railway, the free maternity care, and all the things that they have managed to do. So the track record will be one of the key things that they'll be selling to the voters and selling to the audience that will be here, as well as launching a manifesto and telling Kenyans what are the new things they intend to do going forward. We've seen the banners, we've seen the placards already being put in strategic places. Some of the things, the merchandise that the audience will be using, and even outside, the decor has been arranged, just waiting for the launch to begin anytime from now. Ken?
That's indeed, everything is happening the right time, and it's obviously a little bit curious, but again, the explanation that the CSs will be there, it means what Jubilee is taking this opportunity, Andrew, to showcase what they have done in the last 4.5 and making a case for 5. But importantly, Andrew, is the messaging and what they are really talking about. I learned earlier from you, Andrew, that on the campaign trail they haven't been speaking about 2 things. One is women, and secondly is about food. Do you expect these things to feature prominently in their launch today?
Well, I don't get what you mean by when you're talking about women, but they have been talking about the free maternity care, and they've been persistent on that messaging that it is the Jubilee government. Remember, when it came into power, the first thing that they said was that from the day they got into power, anybody who was going to deliver in a public hospital would be given that free of charge. Well, there have been some challenges with that with the county governments, but it is there, and that has been happening, and they have been very persistent with that. They've also not, in the campaigns, they've not been talking about food security, they've not been talking about unga, but what I've seen is from them mainly in their strongholds that they've not been talking about this. They've been mainly persistent on the messaging of going forward, the track record that they have been set and the infrastructure projects that they've done. They've been talking about SGR, they've been talking about the free maternity care, they've been talking about the title deeds, they've been talking about 5 roads. In Meru County alone, the president commissioned the construction of 5 roads. He gave out hundreds and thousands of title deeds in Nyeri, in Meru, and in all these places. So while they've been missing some of the subjects, they've been trying to hype some of the most successful ones, and they've not really been talking about some of the ones which failed, like irrigation in Meru, which is a very agricultural area. In so many of these places, there was no mention of agriculture. So they've been hyping some of those that worked, and they've been not really talking about some of those that didn't really work well for them. And one of them is food security, the cost of living, the price of unga, the availability of that unga also.
All right, Andrew, when we talk about women, I had a panel in studio, and they mentioned that in President Uhuru's government, we have 5 out of 22. I'm not sure, but one of them mentioned that only 5 women out of the 22. And you remember, because we covered this extensively, the case where the president was sued over 2/3, you know, and they say there has not been a definite space for women in the Jubilee government. So perhaps that is one thing that we want to look at. And finally for you, in terms of the messaging once again, they have sort of inverted the manifesto from what we had last time. Would you know why this is happening, or perhaps priorities have changed, or they've been listening to the voices of Kenyans? Because if you look at what was key the other time and what's key right now, food security comes right at the top, Andrew.
Well, it's definitely probably because that is what the voters are talking about at the moment. Many people have been saying, if you look at the opposition has dismissed some of the grand projects going on, and they've been saying that well, it is well and good for them to be there, but they can't be used when people are hungry, when people can't afford basic commodities like food and basic other basic commodities. So of course it would be prudent for them to talk about the things that are really affecting the ordinary mwananchi, and that the ordinary mwananchi care about, and that is food security, things like education, social welfare. They've been really hyping the issue of giving the welfare, that the money that is disbursed to vulnerable children and poor people. These are some of the issues that they've been hyping and really talking about whenever they go to the grassroots in the campaigns. And from what we have seen, the giving of the title deeds, the social issues that really affect ordinary people are what they've been persistent on, as well as hyping the grand infrastructure projects that they've managed to accomplish so far. But they've also been talking about the real social issue that affect the people. One of the issues that they've been talking about again is the continuing the construction of the Thika highway going forward all the way to Nanyuki and Isiolo. So that's another grand project that they made a promise to do when they were in Nyeri, and Nyeri specifically, when they talked about moving the Thika highway from Thika, moving it all the way forward past Nyeri to Nanyuki and Isiolo. So as much as they've been talking about the social issues, they've also been talking about extending some of these issues that have been happening before, extending the SGR, extending the Thika road, and starting more construction of small roads in these particular counties, Ken.